Hello and welcome to the Global Sports Channel. I'm your host Mark Philpott and it's great to have you all back with us. If you're a first time with us here on the Global Sports Channel, welcome. If you're a regular visitor to our shows, thank you for coming back. Your support is very much appreciated. Now, if you haven't joined us on social media, please do so. You'll find us on Facebook under the Global Sports Channel, on Twitter and on Instagram. We've got some pretty great content there for you to all check out about what's going on in the world of sports, as well as all of the interviews and content that we create as well. If you're watching us on YouTube, then don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the little bell notification button. You will be then notified every time we drop a video, and you'll be able to check out what's going on our channel. Thank you very much to all our YouTube subscribers. You've taken us to new heights in a very short period of time. We thank you for that. And don't forget to make comments and suggestions on our videos as well. We love to hear what you've got to say. Now, on today's show, I'm going to be interviewing someone about a very important topic, and that's about the transition away from professional sports into the next chapter of life. Our Love Athletes program is dedicated to helping professional athletes around the world, and part of that is to educate our audience on what actually it's like for athletes as a professional athlete. Today's show, we're going to be focusing on that topic of transition away from a professional sports career and all of the challenges associated with that. My guest is an ex-professional sports person who's going to share in us all the different things that he experienced when he went through that transition. So why don't we get over to meet my guest for today right now and welcome him to the Global Sports Channel. So it's a very warm welcome to the Global Sports Channel today to Mr. Alex Opacic. Alex, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me on. Glad to be here.
Yeah, fantastic to have you. Now, did I pronounce your name correctly?
That's fine. Yeah, people pronounce my name in many different ways. Opacic, Opacic. So I'm good with all three or four.
What's the history of your name?
My background's Croatian, Serbian. Half Croatian, half Serbian. So I was born in Croatia, actually.
Yeah.
And I moved to Australia when I was 10.
Okay, so a big Novak Djokovic fan?
Yeah, definitely big. Yeah, he's God over there, pretty much.
He's God over there. So is he the greatest of all time? Shall we start that conversation?
I guess, it's funny with tennis. I guess you can. It's tough to measure the greatest of all time in basketball or team sports because it's a team sport, right? But in tennis, it's just purely about numbers, isn't it? How else would you measure the greatest of all time? And he's got the most wins. So I know he's tied, but he's got, I think, the most ATP wins. So let's, you'll go that to the next one. I think he'll get 21 and more.
Yeah.
So I'd say he'd have to be the greatest of all time, wouldn't he?
Well, I've got a perspective on it. I don't want to necessarily share it on the show, but
fair enough.
But I think there's a lot. When you start talking about the greatest of all time, I think there's a lot that goes into it, right? There's a lot, and it's very difficult. Let's face it, to compare generations as well. I think that we're living in an age now where technology is extremely different to what it was even 50 years ago. Different balls, different tennis rackets, the surfaces are very different, the competition's different, the training techniques, all those things are different. So yeah, a bit difficult. We could spend a whole show talking about that, but we're not going to. So thanks very much again for coming on the show. As I've mentioned to you offline, we're very focused here at the Global Sports Channel to educate our global audience, which, by the way, we're going to over 103 countries around the world today with this show. So you might have a lot of fans in Croatia, Serbia actually listening to you, so you can have a shout out to them as well. But we're trying to do our very best in providing uncovering the truth about professional sport. We're very passionate and dedicated in our business to look at how we can help professional athletes around the world. And since I've been involved in this journey, I've found out that there's a lot of misconceptions out there in the world when it comes to sports fans not really understanding the plight of professional athletes. So because you've been down that path, I wanted to get you on the show today to talk about some of the home truths about being a professional sports person, and in particular, the transition away from being a professional sports person into the next chapter of life. So I guess for the sake of the audience, let's start with what sport you fell in love with as a kid, and where did that lead you to?
Yeah, so I fell in love with basketball. Actually, I'll go back when I was about 5. I started playing soccer, and most countries around the world will call it football. We certainly do in Croatia, Serbia. So we'll stick with football. Australia, America's soccer. But yeah, so football I fell in love with initially. It wasn't until I grew up in Croatia and Serbia playing football. Then we moved to Australia when I was 10, and by the time I was 12, I just shot up in height. I was a really tall 12-year-old and started being really bad at football. I was uncoordinated and just pretty much tripping over my own feet. But it was just funny to look at me playing football. I was just, just head, way too tall above everybody else. And my dad got me into basketball when I was 12, and ever since, as soon as I stepped foot on the court, man, I absolutely love it. Part of it was because I was so tall, I was dominating. So who doesn't like winning? So I started falling in love with the game then.
So did you kind of pick it up straight away? Was it a sport that you really connected with? Were you as least uncoordinated on the basketball court as you were playing football?
That's funny because football actually helped with my footwork. Like, football is the ultimate game in terms of footwork, right? And you got to dribble the ball with your feet, and certainly footwork helps in basketball, but it's got to do with your hands and your overall body movements. But the footwork I developed from football actually helped me perform better in basketball. So I was actually very coordinated in basketball, especially for my height. I was miles taller than everybody else, and and I was also fast. I could had really good footwork, get around people. Then I started developing ball handling skills as well quite quickly. So I loved it, man. And then I started watching, as all young basketball players did back in the day, started watching Michael Jordan, and it was instant love story there. Yeah,
there you go. Now, from my very limited knowledge of Croatian sport, I know that they're very strong in basketball. They've always been very, very good in basketball. Was there a dream there at some stage to represent Croatia in basketball?
Yeah, man, absolutely. Yeah. So it was either both Croatia and Australia, because obviously I grew up playing my juniors in Australia. So, I would have loved to play for Australia or Croatia. It was either, mate. It would have been an absolute dream to represent either country in basketball. I actually ended up playing professionally in Croatia after college in Rijeka for Kvarner. And I played in Macedonia as well, which is all part of that former Yugoslavia. But yeah, the dream was to just keep going up the ranks in that Croatian league, the Adriatic League. They call it, I think it's still called that, the ABA league, ABA league. But obviously that never eventuated. Got injured and all that. But yeah, that would have been amazing to represent the country.
Yeah, right. So for people listening today, and as I say, we're trying to do our best in educating people on the journey of a professional sports person. When you turned pro, what was that experience like? Like, what were some of the new things that came into your life that you weren't either prepared for, or were a bit surprising as far as turning professional as an athlete?
I'll go back to I played. Where my career started off at a really elite level was when I was at the Australian Institute of Sport. Like, I played along the likes of those like Joe Ingles, Aaron Baines, Paddy Mills, who I'm sure you guys all know are doing really well in the Boomers right now. Go Boomers. And that's when my elite level basketball started. But I spent a year there and then went to college basketball in the US. I spent 4 years playing D1 college basketball. And I would say that was where the professional ranks started, in terms of it's just next level training, intensity, pressure, big crowds at games. College basketball is pretty much like, you're treated like a professional athlete. So that's where it all started. And I guess I guess I wasn't ready for that intensity level, the competition level. Everybody's really, really good. Like, what separates the greats or the best from the average, I think, is a mental mindset. And just little things. At that level, everyone's really, really, really talented. It's just little things that separate the great from the ones that are average, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think I wasn't ready for that intensity and competition level.
You highlight a really interesting point there that happens to a lot of young athletes, is they actually have to leave their town or country and go overseas to find better competition and get new skills. How was that transition overseas for you? You obviously left behind family and friends and that, and you were in a new environment. Was that difficult to adjust?
Initially, yeah, like for the first couple of months, so I went to South Carolina, like the deep south of the US, completely different culture over there, right? To even like California, which is probably more closer to home in Sydney. But yeah, it was a culture shock initially for the first couple of months. I was very homesick, just wasn't used to the environment there. But I quickly got used to it. I just pushed through it and started obviously developing some really close friends. I had my teammates there; they were great in supporting me. So I actually quickly got used to it. It was only the initial couple of months that it was a tough transition. Then I got used to it, and my teammates were like family. Then
Mm. How old were you when you went over there?
18.
18. Okay, so still fairly
Yeah,
young. And
yeah.
the team that you played for, did they have any mechanisms in place to support you in terms of that transition from another country into their environment?
They did, yeah. They were really good. The assistant coaches followed me around quite a bit and helped me out. They always invited me over to their families' dinner, their homes. Had a lot of home cooked meals then as well. It was actually and the community in general in South Carolina. It was a small town called Greenville, South Carolina. Everybody was really warm, friendly. The home cooking in South Carolina is amazing. I still remember the food there. But no, they were actually really helpful. It was really good.
Well, ironically, I know Greenville, South Carolina, very well.
Do you?
I've spent time there, so
Really?
we can talk about that offline. I can't give away too many secrets, but yeah, it's a nice part of the world, and it's very close to some really phenomenal places to go and visit in America as well. In that deep south area, and if you like a bit of golf, Hilton Head and all those places are not too far away. So
Yeah,
it's all
that's
good.
right.
So okay, so you transitioned into the US, and how long did you stay there for? 4 years, you said.
Yeah, 4 years, graduated with a communication degree, and then I went off and played professionally in Greece after that.
So, how important was it for you to do the study as well as pursue the passion for your sport? If we've got young people watching our show today and they're heading off into a professional sports career, how strict do you think it should be for kids to have an education as well as pursuing their sporting career?
I mean, very strict. Like in college in the US, it's set up in a way where you have to study while you're competing at that elite level, and you have to maintain a certain GPA average, otherwise you can't play, right? So that was the plus. It forced you to study. There are other criticisms that I have about that system as well. Like for example, a lot of I don't know, a lot. There are certain schools you just go and you can play basketball and get away with not particularly being the best student and just kind of just go through the motions of the studies as well. There was also, for me personally, I took the studies for granted. If I'm going to be honest, I just went there, tick the boxes, go to class, do the bare minimum that I can to get by, which is what I did, and play basketball. So although I did get a degree, if I'm going to be 100% honest, I didn't apply myself 100%. And there's nothing that anyone can do about that. They had everything in place for you to get a good education and succeed. We had study hall from 7:30 to 9:30 p.m. every night. That was mandatory. Again, you had to maintain a 2.0 GPA. The teachers were really helpful. I don't think anything else they can do. I think it's up to the athlete owners to put it upon themselves. Hey, I'm studying here. This is my focus right now. I need to get a degree because I'm not going to be a professional athlete or elite athlete for the rest of my life. I really need to focus on here, and not just focus on getting the degree, but really starting to think about what I'm learning right here, right now. How is that going to help me to be a professional outside of sports? What exactly can I do with this degree in the professional world? Let's start connecting with businesses, with whatever I might want to do next. I was literally just there ticking the boxes, just getting by, not really applying myself 100%. I was just there to play basketball, and I think that was the wrong attitude that I had, which is, I'm sure we'll get into the story, which is why I struggled with the transition after basketball.
Yeah, it's a difficult one though, isn't it? Because you particularly look at the United States and they have a phenomenal platform for young people to go into a sporting career. And they, as you've just explained, they do set up the peripheral activities for education to make sure that athletes do get some form of education. But it's very difficult to tell a young person to try and look into the future and realize that after, not so many years, you're going to be in a different chapter of your life and you're going to need to fall back on that particular education. As a young person, did you have anybody mentoring you around that space at that time? Was there anybody giving you that kind of advice?
See, that's a really good question. That there wasn't. I'm trying to sit here and remember. If I can't remember, then I guess there wasn't, right?
Yeah.
I think that's probably what they might be missing is some sort of mentorship from someone, to not just the education piece, but guidance on the types of careers that athletes could have post sport. There are, I wasn't one of them. There are, a lot of athletes that know exactly what they want. They might, get an engineering degree, a degree in medicine, whatever it is. They do that for 4 years, play their sport, go on. That's great. But there's a lot of athletes like me who have just no idea what they want to do. And I went and got a communication degree. Why did I get a communication degree? I got no idea. It was just there. It was the easiest thing I could do, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I got a communications degree.
Yeah.
I actually really enjoyed studying that degree, and did it propel me for life after basketball, or did it prepare me? Sorry, I don't know. I don't know if it did, to be honest. It might have, but I just don't know. Like, it did build my communication skills, but in terms of knowing what I want to do after basketball, I had no idea. And there was no mentorship to kind of guide you in more like a career advisory way, I guess.
Yeah. One of the many things we're going to be doing with our Love Athletes program is to give young athletes the ability to connect with mentors who are going to share about their journey, just like you are with us today, to pass on that knowledge and experience. Because I think it's, very, very important for young people to realize a couple of things. The first one is how important the education process is. And it may not be that necessary to understand exactly where you want to go in the future, but to have at least something behind you that you've been skilled in. The second part of it also is, let's face it, a professional sports career can be ended overnight by injury. And even though, when you were starting off in basketball, you might have thought you were bulletproof and you were fit and healthy and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But, one slip on that knee on the basketball court could have ended everything, right? And you're out there immediately looking for, the next chapter in life. So that's really good that you've shared that with us. So what happened after the 4 years in America? Where did you go from there? You went to Croatia, did you?
So I went to Greece initially, spent a season playing there, and then I played. After that, I played in Macedonia.
How did Greece come about? How did that opportunity come about for you?
Oh, I just got I got an agent, a basketball agent after college. You're playing D1 college basketball. I also had a European passport because I was born in Croatia. So a lot of sports agents approached me, and it was easier for me to get an opportunity in Europe than someone who didn't have a passport. So I could get a contract as a local. My agent hooked me up with a deal in Greece. I went over there first. Struggled my first season as a rookie, but really enjoyed the process and the time there. It was, looking back on it now, it's one of the best times of your life, right? Being a professional athlete. Yeah. Sometimes you take it for granted. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And then I went to Macedonia, had a really good season there, and then played in Croatia. My last season professionally, and as you said, had a slip of a knee, and that was it. My career was done. I was 24.
Right. Yeah. Well, there you go. When you least expect it, right? These things happen. You said you found it difficult to adjust in Greece for the first year. What were some of the details behind that? Can you share some of that with us?
It was tough to find someone who could speak English. That was probably the biggest one. There was a couple of guys on the team that did speak English, so that was good. So the difference with college and professional, where in college in the US, they nurture you. You're a young person. They'll coach you. They don't just coach you for the basketball season right there and then. They try and prepare you for life as a person, not necessarily career, but don't want to be contradicting myself, but more as a person. They take care of you. It's friendly community where you're a professional, you're kind of on your own. And even with your teammates, like, everyone has their own lives, they have their own families, because when you're in college, your teammates are your life. That's it. You guys live on campus, you're together, so you feel part of a family. Whereas professionally, everybody lives on their own. They're with their own families. You go to practice, you finish practice, everybody just goes to their own homes. So you have to try a little bit harder to connect with people and build relationships. It's not that we never went out to lunch or dinner together, but it's a bit more slightly lonelier, and also being in a foreign country, not a lot of people were speaking English. It was a bit awkward for me.
Yeah, right. These are really important things for someone, again, listening who might be doing that professional sports journey. Things to take into consideration: the cultural differences. You went from the United States to Greece. Diet alone would have been a huge, significant difference.
Yeah.
And then, in addition to that, you're talking about things like language and I'm sure customs and all the other things that go with it. 24 years old, a knee injury, and it's all over. What was the? Do you remember the day it happened? The emotions?
Yeah, I do. It was preseason training actually, and it wasn't. Basically it was an overuse injury. I had microfracture surgery on my knee, but it wasn't. Nothing really happened. No one stepped on my knee or I stepped awkwardly or whatnot. It just happened over time, and all of a sudden I remember running in a. I think we were doing like a 6K trial preseason run, and my knee just started feeling really weird. There's some pain. I told my coach I got some really weird pain in my knee, and I'll play through it. So the next day I went to training. Same thing. We started running laps on the court. I got to a point where I just couldn't run anymore. And my coach was like, "What's wrong?" I got no idea. Anyway, got an MRI done or some scans, and basically they said like, "Yeah, you got a cartilage there, and you'll be out for a year." And I wasn't a superstar player in Europe at the time. They couldn't pay my salary while I was injured. It's quite cutthroat over there at lower levels. And it was cut from the team. Came back 24, 25-year-old back to Sydney to have surgery and living at home with my parents. Haven't had without a clue what to do next or how to make money. So that was when my post-sport career started.
So am I right in saying that when you were no longer valuable to the team, they just cut you out?
Yeah, and not to sound bad to the team. That's normal over there. If I was a superstar player, it probably wouldn't have been like that. I would have been on a much higher team. But that's normal. Right? They're a small town team, low budget. It's completely understandable. But it's cutthroat. That's how it is.
Yeah. So how were the emotions when, you got on that flight and you were heading back to Australia and you obviously had some time to think about, wow, what am I going to do? What's this going to be all about now, right?
Yeah, it was, I remember those emotions. It was tough, man. It was, I was trying to think about what to do next. I remember I started writing my resume on the plane and I didn't even know how to write a resume or what to write on it. I scored 25 points in this game. I'm like, hold on, they don't care about that.
Yeah.
Played college basketball, but no one cares to get a job, right? So it was a tough one. It was really tough. I felt worthless. I felt like a big failure.
Mm-hmm.
I almost felt embarrassed as well because I had. Growing up in the community, I was. There's been a couple of successful players where I grew up. There's some of my best friends now that were doing great overseas, and then I was the other one who was supposed to be doing great overseas as well, and here I was coming home, just failed, done.
Yeah.
It was a bit embarrassing, to be honest, as well. Yeah, I felt a mixture of emotions.
Yeah, I bet. Mental health's a really big thing in our community today, but also within the sporting world. Would you say that during that period you had suffered from depression in any way? Was there any depression associated with that?
I don't know. Like it's I don't want to. I wasn't diagnosed, no, and I never went and spoke to a doctor or anyone. I'm not sure, so I don't want to say I was depressed. But then there's different levels of depression, and I don't want to disregard to people who are clinically depressed. I don't like throwing that word around.
Mm-hmm.
I was definitely very, very, very down on myself. You could get to you could probably say mild depression.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Again, I wasn't diagnosed, so I don't know. But definitely very down on myself. Felt worthless. There's times I'd lock myself in my room for hours, days, man, and I wouldn't come out.
Mm-hmm.
Just had no idea what. And in the meantime, I was having knee surgery and rehabbing. Couldn't walk for almost 3 months. I was looking for looking for a job because I wasn't one of those. I didn't want to sit around and do nothing. I wanted to make money, right?
Mm-hmm.
I went to countless interviews on crutches and painkillers, and it was just yeah, it was a tough time.
Yeah, I bet it was, and I'm glad, and I thank you for sharing that with us, because one, it's a very personal journey, but it's also quite a common one in terms of a lot of sports people that do finish their career. You had everything coming at you. You were dealing with an injury and trying to heal with that. You were relocating back to Australia, and you were having all these thoughts about, what to do next, and depressed about, not being a success in your eyes in those terms.
Yeah.
So there was a lot going on, right? There must have been a lot of things. Thankfully, you was obviously staying with your family. So did that help in a lot of ways as well?
Yeah, it did. It did definitely. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, grateful for that. Yeah, my family was obviously a massive support. Especially my dad, and my mum. Yeah, they were there. That my dad was. I remember my dad was driving me to job interviews everywhere while I was on crutches. Massive support. So yeah, thankful for that.
Yeah, cool. So what happened next? What was the next step of the journey for you?
My dad. So once my knee rehab lasted for about a year. I couldn't play basketball for a year. So in that year, that struggle, mental struggle, and just thoughts about what to do with my life, that lasted for a whole year. I probably did 5 or 6 different jobs throughout that year, whether I was fired, quit, mixture, all that. It was just I had no idea what I wanted to do, and had to go about it. I started jobs, didn't like them. I quit. Again, we'll go into it later on, but I had the wrong attitude. Then my knee got a little bit better. I started playing semi-professionally here in Sydney, then hurt my knee again because I came back too early. And obviously my rehab wasn't 100% focused because I was trying to get jobs and going around differently. So I had to have another surgery, and then I was out for another year. So that was 2 years, that whole battle with what to do with my life. Not accepting, I was 24 to 26 in the prime of my basketball career, doing nothing but trying to rehab my knee. That was tough. So that lasted for 2 years. Then eventually, once my knee got better, then I got a semi-professional gig in Albury, Wodonga.
Mm-hmm.
Might have heard of it. It's a town, 6-hour drive outside, just close to Victoria.
Right.
And then that's when my life started turning around.
Okay. So it's really fascinating, isn't it? Because when you've been doing something for most of your life and you're passionate about it, in your case, basketball, it becomes a very much an important part of your entire life, doesn't it? Your whole day rotates around it. Your training, your games, competitions, your mindset is all focused on that. When you take that away from a professional athlete and you've got to think about, you've got 24 hours in the day and all you were thinking about was why I can't play basketball and why this knee injury is not healing fast enough. Is that right?
That's exactly what happened. That's exactly why I struggled for those 2 years, is because as professional athletes, we're so used to doing something we love and that we're passionate about, and you chase that dream. You're chasing things, you're training throughout the week to playing the game on the weekend, and you got something to look forward to, right? That adrenaline rush. It's just it's an addiction almost. You're training all day, every day. It's just something you absolutely love. I found it really tough to come home and work in jobs that were nowhere near on that same level of passion as basketball. Like, obviously, this is the wrong attitude to have. We'll go back into this later on. But that's what I found really, really tough. It was, and also I wasn't accepting, rightfully so. I was 25, 26, in my prime. I wasn't accepting that basketball wasn't happening for me. It was done. I was like, what am I doing here in this corporate job?
Yeah.
Dressed in a suit.
Yeah.
On next to this cubicle. It was just depressing time.
Shout out to all our viewers today watching in their cubicle at work. And
There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. And obviously, we'll find out. We'll find out now where this story is going.
Yeah.
But yeah, the mental switch to accept where I was at and understand that passion doesn't grow on trees wasn't there for me yet.
Yeah, interesting. We talk a lot about how professional athletes, even though the word bubble today has come into our vocabulary a lot because of what's going on with this global pandemic, but for a large extent, professional athletes do live in a bubble, and they're not as cognizant of what's going on in the outside world because they're very focused, committed, and dedicated to their particular sport. And it's not until it's taken away or it's removed from their life cycle that they start to see all the other peripheral things that are going on in the world. Is that something that you experienced as well? Was there a kind of a naivety around what the rest of the world was all about?
Definitely, yeah. There is a massive bubble. Yeah, I could even give you some stories, but I could be a rare case. Like, I don't even know what a stapler was, mate. I mean, I know I should have had a stapler in college, but but a hole puncher. I don't know if they have hole punchers these days, but simple things on how to send a professional email.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
little
I
things.
can put your mind at rest. I was talking to an ex-NFL player the other day, and he was telling me when he got a job after his career, he didn't know how to turn on the photocopying machine in the office. So you're not alone. You're not alone.
I'm in a shared office now, as you can tell. I got to ask the receptionist to turn the printer on for me. Still,
you'll get there. You'll get there. So before we get on to what you're doing today and how that came about, let's go back to your professional career. If you were to start all that over again, knowing what you know today, would you do anything differently? And if you would, what would it be?
Really good question. I think about this quite a bit. What I would do differently when I was in college, in university, and yeah, when I was in I would have picked a technical degree, right? I would have picked maybe psychology, engineering, and not medicine, maybe physiotherapy, something technical. I would have picked where, right, you're actually building skills for a technical career or whatnot. Nothing wrong with a business degree, a communication degree, degrees of nature. We're a bit broad, but I think there's no one specific thing that you specialize in if you go and do those degrees. Again, this is me. You're asking. This is me personally, and I think a lot of people would disagree. Some people would agree. It's fine, and we can go into why I'm saying this. But I would have picked a technical degree and actually learned something technical and applied myself into it. Right. Secondly, when I entered the job market, what I would have done differently is be a lot more intelligent. Or be a lot more aware of what jobs I'm interviewing for, what companies I'm trying to work for. I went to a job interview and they were asking me a lot of questions. I maybe asked one or two questions. That's it. Job interviews are a two-way street. Not only are they interviewing you, you're interviewing them as well. It's to try and find out if that's the right fit for you. I never had that frame of mind. And then once I joined the company, I would have been a lot more patient and understanding and aware that I am most likely not going to be passionate or enjoy this job. But this is my first corporate job. And who am I to deserve something that I absolutely love straight away? What did I do in my previous life or whatever? What did I do to deserve something that I love straight away? So just like basketball, you need to put in the hours and the effort and the time to eventually be good at something you love or something you enjoy, right? Like you need to work hard to get there. You need to prove yourself, right? No one gave me an AIS scholarship out of the blue. No one gave me a college Division I college basketball scholarship out of the blue, right? I worked to get there. Same thing. Once you finish your sport, I would have applied myself in a particular job that I would have been a lot more smarter and aware of finding and interviewing for. Then I would have, spoken to the marketing department, the CEO. I would have been closer friends with him. I would have started networking with people around me. I was in this, in this little cubicle to myself. Oh, this is crap. I don't like it. What am I doing here? Hey, open up your world. Go speak to marketing. Go speak to finance. Hey, do you want to catch up for lunch later on? Let's catch up for dinner this weekend. You get to know your colleagues, network, immerse yourself in that world, because it's not. And it's not a forever job, right? So I would have used that job to upskill and learn and just teach myself about the corporate world. Ask a lot of questions, and then go and try and find something bigger. That's what I would have done differently.
Pretty much like an internship, you would have made yourself familiar with the whole process, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I paid internship. Yeah, 100%.
I'll throw a time bomb question at you. Do you think a lot of professional athletes have a sense of entitlement when they finish their career and go out into the other world? Do they think, well, hang on, this is, I've been to the Olympic Games, I've done this, and therefore, as you were just talking about, they don't expect sometimes to start at the grassroots and build their way up again. They want to be, I'm a brand ambassador. I want to do this for a company and etc. Is that a true feeling of it all?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was one of them as well. And I really had I wasn't a great athlete. I never went to the Olympics or even close to it. Yet I felt like, hey, you should be bowing down to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, a lot of athletes, even what I do now, I get a lot of athletes who want to be brand ambassadors and, relationship managers, those things of that nature. And well, hold on, you gotta tick some boxes before you do that.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. The answer is yes. We do. Athletes, and some may agree, some may disagree with me. But there is a lot entitled. Yeah.
So let's talk about what you're doing now, and tell us the story how you got into that. Where did that all begin from?
Yeah. So it started from. I'll go back to the second year of my rehab. Once my knee got better, I got a semi-professional gig in Albury-Wodonga, playing semi, and I was 26, 27 at the time, playing semi-professionally in Australia. You don't get paid a lot. So I had to get another job while I was playing semi-professional basketball. And I got to a point and I said to myself, I don't want to go through those last 2 years that I just went through. And I just had 2 knee surgeries at 27. Most likely, I'm going to have another knee surgery, and I actually did later on. So I don't think basketball is going to be. I'm not going to be making millions of dollars from basketball, most likely. And some could say certainly not with that attitude. But I was aware that I needed to actually immerse myself into something outside of basketball. So then, I went and tried to get a job in Albury-Wodonga. Long story short, there was a sales manager for a local radio station looking for an account manager. She approached me and she said, you should interview for the job that we have, which is in sales, selling radio advertising to the local businesses and as an account manager. And I was like, what's an account manager? What's sales? What is this? So I went and interviewed and I got the job. And she said, the reason I asked you to interview is because there was that radio station was one of the sponsors for the club that I play for. And I went to all the networking events and I was a natural conversationalist, and she said she saw a mongrel in me that she could utilize for her sales team, and if she felt confident she could teach me how to get that mongrel and tenacity that I have on the basketball court out into the business world, and that I could be really successful. I was like, sure, go for it, let's go. And mate, 6 months later, I started being really successful. So I got in a situation where the company had a really good onboarding process, training. The manager was more of a mentor to me than a manager, like a really good basketball coach, right?
Yeah.
And I started learning the trade. Then I started immersing myself into this sales job. I started reading books on sales. Basically, as hard I was working in basketball, I started working in this job. And fast forward, I ended up staying in Albury-Wodonga for 3 years. We actually won the championship in 2012.
Oh, right.
Shout out to the Bandits, Civil League. And I ended up, I actually got some professional opportunities to go back and play in Europe. Not a lot of money, but again, an opportunity for me to get back up in the basketball world. I ended up staying in Albury-Wodonga because of that job, not because of basketball, right? It just started changing around for me. So that's when my sales career kicked off, and then I ended up working in sales for about 9 or 10 years. After that, once I finished up semi-pro basketball, I just completely immersed myself in sales. But along my journey, mate, I noticed a lot of other athletes, once they learn to utilize those high-performing habits from sport into business, they tend to be high performers, high achievers. Mate, you were one of them. I remember when we initially spoke, you're the greatest of all time at the DHL.
Yeah, boo-hoo, boo-hoo.
Yeah. And I noticed a lot of athletes also struggle with that transition, like I did. And just from my own story, I learned, hey, this transition doesn't have to be that much of a struggle. It actually can be an easier transition, and actually athletes can have an avenue where they can utilize all their high performing habits they picked up from sport and find another purpose, another passion, something else to dream and strive towards in the business world outside of sport. So that's why I started this business. It's athlete to business. Essentially, I started to bridge that gap, help athletes transition better than I did, but also connect these high-performing individuals with businesses who can utilize those unique skills and experiences.
Yeah, that's brilliant. There's a lot of things that you've just mentioned that I'd like to maybe talk about a little bit more because it's a fascinating journey. I'd like to use the word purpose. When an athlete comes out of their professional career, they're lacking that purpose in life in a lot of areas, and what you're talking about is reinvigorating that purpose in an athlete's life to start that next chapter of their life. And it can be through, as you did, learning new skills, customizing yourself to the business world and how that all works. And obviously there's a lot of milestones there that you went through as well in terms of your overall personal growth and development that I guess motivated you in a lot of ways as well. Is that right, Alex?
Definitely, yeah, 100%. I think I've always been a motivated individual, and it comes back to basketball, right? I was always motivated to be the best that I can be, and that doesn't go away in life, in anything you do. I think that is a habit right there. That's one of the high performing attributes that I speak about to my clients, to athletes. Like, athletes are motivated individuals, and part of that as well is probably why I also struggled throughout my rehab. Because I was so motivated to do something. I'm rehabbing, not playing basketball. I need to do something. Let's go get a job. Like maybe if I just stopped and rehabbed my knee properly and just chilled out on the couch, did my rehab, et cetera, maybe I would have gotten back and played basketball earlier. I don't know. Again, everything happens for a reason, right?
Yeah.
And so I think, I've always been motivated. I think that's the big reason to what I'm doing at the moment.
I make a lot of comparisons between a professional sporting career and that of an entrepreneur. I think there's a lot of similarities required between the both jobs, so to speak. You started a business, Athletes to Business. What was it, 2020, early last year?
Yeah, just the week before COVID broke out, actually. Yeah.
Great timing to start a business. And but would you agree with that comment? There's a lot of similarities between that entrepreneurship journey and that of a professional athlete.
Absolutely, man. 100%. Yeah. To be an athlete, you have to be resilient. You have to be driven. You have to be a go-getter. You got to take risks as well, right? Me packing up my life, going to the US in college is a bit of a risk. Then going to Greece is a risk, and et cetera, et cetera. Especially in basketball, and I don't know how it is in other sports. It's week to week, right? You have a bad game, you could be cut, you're done. So it's very cutthroat. Same thing with entrepreneurship. Same thing. It's, you got no base salary. You're generating your own salary. You're putting everything on the line. You have to be driven. You have to be onto it. You have to be resilient, motivated all the time. So yeah, a lot of similarities.
Yeah, I like that about what you talked about, and I'd also throw out the word fear, because I think when you were in that basketball mode and you were heading off to the United States, there was no fear around what you were actually doing, because you were a basketball player and you had it in your mindset that I'm going to go over there and do well, and I love basketball and I'm passionate about it. So there was all the right, I guess we could call it, vibes and energy and vibrations that you were sending out there to be successful. And a lot of people don't go into their business career necessarily with that same attitude, and therefore they think, well, oh gosh, I could fail here, and I start getting all concerned about it. Let's talk about Athletes to Business in terms of how it actually works. Are you standing around the back streets of sports stadiums every weekend waiting for athletes to fall off the wagon? How's it working for you?
I should do that, actually. I haven't thought of that, but I should do that. That's a good idea. But yeah, no, it's going good, man. It's going really well. Again, so throughout my sales career, throughout my business career, I got to a point where, similar again, like what am I actually dreaming towards now? Like, what is my purpose in life now? Because again, with athletes, we're purpose driven. We want to be the best we can be in our sport, win championships, win awards, et cetera, et cetera. I got to a point in my corporate sales career where it's like, is this it? What am I dreaming towards? What am I striving towards? But I constantly had this entrepreneurial itch. I didn't know what it was. I wanted to do something for myself and just have that dream element again, like feel like I'm actually playing basketball again, something that I love and I'm passionate about. Man, I listened throughout my sales jobs. I listened to podcasts. You know, the Tim Ferriss show is one of them. Another one is the School of Greatness with Lewis Howes. There's many others that I listened to. Started reading books. I wanted to do something entrepreneurial, but got to the point I already mentioned the idea behind Athlete to Business. I started doing it on the side while I was working full time. They say the best time to start a business is when you're employed, less risk. So I started doing it on the side. With anything, if you're serious about something, a side hustle is a side hustle for so long. I don't think you can maintain a side hustle forever. It got to a point where I needed to make a decision, go one way or another. And the business got to a point where I needed to launch into it full time. I did back in 2020. And it was the best thing I ever did. I honestly feel like I'm playing basketball again. It's that the passion element there. I'm dreaming and got purpose in life again. In career fulfillment. But no, it's gone really well. The reception from clients around the world, man, has been amazing. I'm preaching to businesses that they should be hiring athletes because athletes have a lot to bring to their business, right? And businesses are now listening. And I'm also preaching to athletes that you have such transferable skills to be an entrepreneur, one, definitely, and also to be a great salesperson. Or anything you want to do in business, you can absolutely dominate. You just have to choose to do it and immerse yourself into it. And also, athletes are listening as well. So it's been going well.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, for everybody watching or listening to the show today, I'm going to put all of the contact details to get in contact with Alex in the show notes. So if you want to reach out to Alex, and as Alex just explained, his business is global, so you don't have to be based only in Australia. He's got customers in Thailand, Singapore, places in Asia, and that. Yeah.
Yeah, Southeast Asia, starting to get into the US as well. But across New Zealand, Australia, Southeast Asia, and a little bit in the US.
Okay, fantastic. Alex, before we wrap up today, I'd like you to kind of give us a bit of a summary of, what have been the key things that you've learned as an ex-professional sports player that you would like to pass on to anyone watching the show today that might be just starting out on their professional sports journey. What pieces of wisdom would you like to share with them?
Stay aware, to be the best athlete you can be. I understand you have to have one track mind and put all your effort into it and, be the best that you can. But I urge athletes to stay aware and just notice that this is not going to last forever. Start thinking about life after sport now while you're an athlete. And one of the best ways to do that is, with the technology that's out there at the moment, as an athlete, you do have time for a side hustle. Start a blog, run a coaching business, get an education, go to university. That's another thing. Write a book, do something outside of your sport. I speak to a lot of athletes who do that and they actually perform better on the court or on the field or on the track because they're doing things outside of the sport and somehow it eases the pressure into their performance as well. So that's I like to give technical advice instead of other advice. But that's my advice: is start doing something outside of your sport while you're an athlete.
Yeah, very sound indeed. And for everybody watching and listening, we're going to be looking at how Alex and us at the Love Athletes platform are going to be able to collaborate. We're excited to look at opportunities in which we can do things together. We love what Alex is doing. It fits in really, really well with what we're aiming to do around the world. So stay tuned for some more news on those developments as well. Alex, it's been great having you on the show today. Thanks very much for your time and sharing your personal story. As I say, we're going to put all your contact details in the show notes. So if people want to reach out and have a chat to you, who knows, there might be someone in Albury Wodonga that remembers you that wants to reach out to say hi as well. So thanks very much for your time and being on the Global Sports Channel.
No, thanks for having me on, Mark. Appreciate it, mate. It was fun. I look forward to staying in touch.
Great stuff. There we are. That was Alex Opacic talking to us from Sydney in Australia, who are experiencing another lockdown. All the folks in Sydney, our best wishes to you all there, as well as people in Melbourne as well in lockdown as of today. I hope you enjoyed that conversation I had with Alex. It was a fascinating journey into the world of professional sports people and their transition into the next chapter of their life. We're hoping that we bring you a lot of new information about how difficult that whole process is for athletes, and also importantly how we might be able to support that process to help athletes out all across the world. If you're new to the Global Sports Channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the little bell notification. You'll be then advised whenever we drop a new video for you to watch. And check us out on social media, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. We're there for you to comment and connect with us. Until next time, my name is Mark Philpott. Have a fantastic day no matter where you are in the world and what your situation is. Stay well and stay safe, and I'll see you again very shortly here on the Global Sports Channel.